What's up guys, I just want to show you some tips to make your 3D renders look a lot better than just the default. Right now it's just the default environment. So when you're working in Nomad, that's usually the first thing. There's going to be no lights, but it really makes it look flat. It doesn't make it look good. So if you're going to render something or, post it on Facebook or something like that, there's some easy things that you can do to sort of prepare your render to make your model look the best that it can look. So the first thing I would say is you want to add a backdrop. I always use this backdrop that I made, but it's really just like a curve. It's like a curved background. So it's not very difficult at all. So I'm just going to use this box. And I'm just going to make it pretty thin, even though it doesn't matter because I'm going to make it bigger. So I'm just going to use this as the backdrop. So we'll stretch this out, and actually you can make it thin and just make it, you just want to make it curved. So now we'll look at the top. We'll use the select mask and the rectangle, and we'll just kind of do something like this. Then we take the gizmo and we move the gizmo from here to like the edge of the, where it's a little bit darker. So we tap pivot, and then we move the gizmo down there, and tap pivot again, and then you can sort of bend it a little bit. So once I do that, I'll just take select mask again. I'll tap top, and then I'll just move the mask up a little bit, and then just rinse and repeat. So take the gizmo, move the pivot, so you just move the pivot, hit pivot again, and then just bend it. And you don't really have to go too crazy with this, because it's really just the background. Maybe I'll do it once more, but I think it really makes a difference. So I'll tap front this time. I'm not in orthographic, that's why it's not exactly perfect. The only problem with orthographic is sometimes it's hard to see like on the side. So I'll do select again, rectangle. We'll do it about there. Go back to perspective. So then we go back in with our gizmo. We'll change the pivot. Again, we'll just put it towards the edge. And once you do this, just save it. That way you don't have to do this again. You can just bring it back into the application. But I'll show you how to do that as well. So we'll hit pivot, and then we'll just bend it up. So something like that. So let's clear the mask. And then we have something like this. And now we can just spread it out like that. And that's pretty good. I try to voxel remesh it. It might ruin it, but we'll see. Yeah. So there's some easier ways to do it, and there's probably some better ways to do it, but just for now, for quick and dirty, it's a good backdrop. Let's change the. You don't really want it to be glossy, so I'm gonna make it kind of rough, just as like a default color. We'll make it white actually. All right, so you also want to bring it down to whatever your character is. You want to put it like right under the feet. There you go. As long as you have it selected, you can go here, and then you can export Nomad, include only selected objects. Just tap that, yes, and then export to Nomad. Save it to your files as whatever you want. Mine is fresh backdrop, and then you'll just be able to bring it in next time, so you don't have to do all this. So I'm just going to use my regular backdrop because it's a little bit smaller in size. And the reason when you want to have a backdrop is because it allows the lights and everything. It allows your sculpt to have shadows and to have like weight and things like that. So it just makes it look better overall. And obviously you can't really change the color here, but you can always change the color of, you can change the color of the backdrop still. So you still can do that. Also, you want to save your view. So get a good view that you might want to like say, okay, this is the view that I like. So I want to make sure that the lighting is good. And unfortunately, like it's really hard to light for all different scenarios. So pick one that you really like. Pick a pose or a stance or just something that you really like. Like if you just want them just straight like this, try to line it up. And once you have it, just go over here and hit add view and then just rename it to whatever you want. That way you have a view. I already have one saved. And also make sure you're in perspective when you're not modeling. And make sure you adjust this because you don't want it to be too much like this. Then it looks like a fisheye. It's not going to look good. I usually leave mine down here. So that's my one. This is the view that I like. So no matter what happens, I can really easily just go back to this view. Very useful. Okay, so for the lights, obviously I use my own environment or HDRI or whatever you want to call it. I made this in Procreate. You can get it on my Gumroad. The link is below, but it doesn't really matter. You can use any of these. You can use any one that you like if you want a certain color scheme, or you can make your own. This is the one that I always use because I like it, but we want to turn the environment off. That was my long way of saying that. So we're going to turn the environment off. Everything should be black. So the first one, we're just going to add light, rename it key. That's your key light. The key light is the main light. Even in photography, film, videography, the key light is the main light that is going to hit your source. So even this looks way better than it did before. It's very dramatic. It doesn't matter where you move it because right now it's a sun. You get to the light options here, but they are the same as these options here. Oops. Where'd my light go? It's always something. Let me turn on the light icons. So this is the sun, spotlight, point light. Point light's always super bright. I would advise not to use the point light, mostly because it doesn't respect the proper shadows. So it would be very useful if it did. It's actually a cool light, but I wind up not using it because it doesn't respect the proper shadows. So even though it looks like it's lit up, there's certain things that have lights on them, like light hitting it, that shouldn't. So personally, I don't know why it doesn't respect the shadows. That makes it utterly pointless to me. You can use screen space, but it makes a lot of weird, like look at this. This is very odd. So it's very difficult to use that light. I rarely use it. Spotlight is good. Sun is for good if you don't really feel like dealing with it. The default light, if you have your character how you want it posed, the default light is usually correct in its placement. So, you can practice like moving it around, whatever, but the default place is perfect. The only thing that I would say is bring it up some. A lot of times people have problems with, if the model, like if they make if they have something and they say like, why isn't it white? Like, why isn't this white? It's because of the lighting. It's because of the environment. If I turn the environment back on, you see how white everything is and like washed out? That's why we turn the environment off. And your lighting is what's going to help you get to this being white. So, like if I wanted to even make it a little bit brighter, it still looks okay. It still looks good. And you see that this is closer to being white. It's because of the light. The reason why I have this a little low, where did I have it? The reason why I have this a little low is because I'm going to bring the environment back eventually. That's going to brighten it up. But then also it looks different in post-process. So things are going to look different in post-process with all of these things on, all of this nonsense. So it's going to look a little different in post-process. I leave that off for now. I just light it without the environment and without post-process. Okay, so we have our key light. That's the main light. So you see the shadows here are very dark, and you see like they don't really look good. So when I add the key light, actually all my lights, I usually change this to softness. See how the shadow changed from that hard shadow, and all the shadows are way more soft. I actually have a shadow from the ball here. So let's delete it. Okay, so now, yeah, we have our shadow. The shadows are soft. It just looks better with soft shadows. So let's add another light. And this one we can make like a fill light. So with just the sun, this is all very, like it's very black. So you can either make a fill light. I'll use a spotlight. And you just bring the light over here and you shine it. You can shine it on them like that. Bring it down. So then you have somewhat of a fill light. So even though it's still shadowy on this side, I can probably make it more shadowy. Let's see. So that's without the fill light. That's without. That's with. It's still a little bright actually. I'd probably make it a little lower, so I can just see it. So that's the fill light. Next, I want to add a light to kind of light up all the outside like ridge, this outside rim. I'm going to make a nice rim light. So we'll call this one edge because this will be on the edge of him. And this light you want bright. Is this the light? Where is it? There we go. Okay, so somehow it's already way back here. Cool. I usually make it on this side. I don't really know why, but I usually make it on this side. Let's look at our view. Okay, so this is our view. We'll move our light over a little bit. I'm going to put it up so it's kind of off the floor. I'll bring it a little closer. Because it's a spotlight, the closer it is, the brighter it will be. Go back to my view. Notice how I always go back to the view. That way I can light for this view. That makes lighting way easier if you have a specific view that you're lighting for, rather than trying to light the whole thing at once. This looks pretty good. You can try to get a little bit more if you can. I try not to get too much on the floor when I'm doing this light, but that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to do this as softness as well, because I just do that with all my lights now. I just think they'd look just way more realistic if the light is softer. Also, another trick, a lot of these things are subsurface. Like you notice, you can kind of see it here in the purple parts, but his skin is also subsurface. And just so you can see, if I go to the skin, I have it at 0.084. Maybe I'll even move it up a little bit. See, if I bring it up too much, then you start seeing all through his skin. So you don't want it up too much. Maybe a little over like 0.12 or so is pretty good. And that just gives the skin a more natural look and feel, at least to me. So back to the lights. The edge light is very bright, so I might bring that down a bit. It doesn't need to be that bright, unless you want it to be. So now we have 3 lights. Let me save this. And now let's add a 4th light. And I like to have a light shining from above, so we'll make this one top down. And I've been pretty much using this formula like a lot for my characters. I think it works pretty well. Again, this one is a spotlight. And I'll bring it up. I'll bring it back here towards him. I can change it to softness now. Go back to our view. Unfortunately, we can't see the light. Move it over a little bit. And maybe I'll use this orange to kind of make the beam a little bit smaller. I think that looks pretty cool. I tend to do this one a cool light, so I tap here and then just bring this a little bit cooler. Usually because the other lights are a little bit warm, so I like to have a cool light. I'll need to bring the actually that's not too bad. Let's look at our view. It's not terrible. And I did change a lot of these to UVs. It would look a little bit better if it was if they were UVs, if they weren't UVs. And that's just something that I did. You can check out the video I have with the little coins. It's how to turn things from being super high res to low res, but still having detail. Let's turn this down a little bit more. Okay, so let's look at our view. I think that looks pretty good. So now let's turn on post-process. Turn on all these. So we have all these settings that I usually keep on. I'll play around with the ambient occlusion. The strength of this, is this not doing anything? So it's probably not doing anything because I'm using the UVs. A lot of these things are UVs, but that's okay. Adjust these until your character looks good, and that's usually what you want to do. All right, so our lights are looking pretty good. Let's add the environment back and just see if we can lower it down some. But I usually add the environment back at the very end, just to like add some light, a little bit of light to where things might be a little bit too dark. Yeah, I'm kind of erratic when I go back and forth with it, so I'll probably just do something like that. So now that I have subsurface on, or now that I have post-process on, I turn the render resolution down and I just adjust the lights again. Sometimes I'll just go through and turn them off one by one, just to make sure that I like them all. Okay, I think they all look pretty good. The key looks pretty good. Oh, I forgot to name this fill. Let's see how it looks without it. It looks all right without the fill, so I'm going to take this light. If you have a backdrop and you have a light to spare, like I think the fill is like, it's fine, but it can go. So I'm going to make this like warm light. I'm going to turn it up, and I'm going to put it in the background. I'm going to make it real soft. Excuse me. Anytime I'm trying to record, my voice just always wants to be a butt monkey. So I'll make it a little bit wider, maybe. So I kind of shined it on the back here, behind him. Let's check out our view. And that kind of gives the background, like you might have noticed if you see 3D characters, they have that nice, it's dark here, then it gets sort of light. Usually it's even darker on top too. So if you want to do that, then you maybe narrow the beam or move the light up a little bit if you want to get the back wall a little bit darker. Okay, so let's look at our view. That's pretty cool, and it's also fun to adjust the colors of that background light too. So we'll go to light. We'll name it BG for background. And it's fun to experiment with some colors that you might want for that light. Let's turn it up some. You know, so you can do some random kind of colors to make it a little bit more colorful if you want. But we'll go with the standard. We'll go with the standard color. I think that looks pretty good. Let me check without the environment. It looks pretty good. Key. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's what I do. I'll turn the render resolution back up. Depth of field, all that stuff looks good. So again, you can adjust these. These are very important too, ambient occlusion. I usually have it around here. Try not to put them up too much, but that'll affect like all these little shadows and stuff like that. The reason why it doesn't work for mine is because these are all like UV baked, like his skin and stuff like that. That's why my file size is very small. But when you zoom in, I have like all this detail here. But of course I can't like change the color of it or anything. It's like permanent. Or maybe I can. Interesting. I thought I couldn't. But I guess I can. Can I change the color of this too? Which I was trying to do earlier. Oh, I can. I didn't realize that. I thought that it was a UV that I couldn't change it. Probably because I tried to before and it wouldn't let me, but I guess they allow it now. Or I'm just a dum-dum. But anyway, so I think this looks a lot better. Let's go to our view. All right, let me save this in case I press anything dumb again. Okay, so let's hide the light icons and hit view. And hopefully all this goes away. Yeah, so I think this is like a better way to just present your 3D stuff. Lighting is very important, but just start with black and light one light at a time. That's a better way to do it. You don't even have to do all the lights or anything special with the background. You can even do like a plane and then another plane in the back, you know, and then just, oops, keeps wanting to do that. It really loves this green, dumb looking shell. You can do a plane as a floor and a plane as a back. And then just make sure that when you do post-process, you have depth of field. So then the edge will be like blurred. Tapping 4 times. There we go. So I just want to show you this lighting on the original model. Let me just save this one. I'm going to open the original one up. So this is the original model. And this lighting is all right, but it's a little more like hokey. And let me just change this. So we'll add that in. I'll just make it bigger. Okay, so we'll do something like that. It's 4.3 million. That's so big. Let's go do the same thing really quick. Turn everything off and start with key light. Make it a little brighter. Change the color of the background. And also, you know what? Let's turn on post-process, but let's turn the render resolution down really low. That way we can still move stuff around. I'm going to turn on global illumination, ambient occlusion. It's still not doing much. It might be because of the background. Maybe it didn't have anything to do with my model. I noticed that if you have a huge background, the ambient occlusion kind of gets weird. So now we add a fill light or a background light. We'll just use it as a background light. We'll do something like that. Okay, so we'll name this one BG. So then of course we want to do the edge. So that's going to be a spotlight. You always want your edge light to be a spotlight. Not always. It doesn't really have to be, but when you're using a backdrop, then you want to be able to control the lights better. You always want to check the view. Yeah, there we go. That's a nice edge. All right, let me make this soft. Can't remember if I made the key soft, but you got to remember to do that. Soft. I like to add a little color in the edge light just to kind of, and you can add a little crazy color too. You can, you know, you can go crazy. Don't go too crazy. Doesn't need to be that bright though. Maybe I'll just put it on him. You can see a little bit on the ground. That looks a little bit better. We'll add another light, top down. Spotlight. I want to make it a spotlight. Want to put it right over his head. Make it soft. Might be a little bright. That looks not bad. If you didn't want to do top down, like obviously these aren't like rules. You could do like another light. You could do like another fun edge light. Maybe there's like another light coming from over here. Maybe we'll keep it blue. That blue color actually looks nice coming from that side. Let's bring this up a little bit. The other thing I wanted to do was take the body, and remember we wanted to make this subsurface. See, this is way too see-through, although it looks kind of cool. Looks like a fruit snack from the 90s. Not too much, like something like that. Let's test it out. Subsurface. Oh, he's pink. If you wanted to do a pink Ninja Turtle, you could just do it. Like, why not? No one can stop you from doing it. Sometimes it's fun to, maybe I'll add this light here. Maybe I'll make it a little warmer in our view. And it'll kind of look like, you know, where this light is coming from, in a sense. It's kind of fun to do. Keeps it honest. I gotta change the color of this blue. It's driving me crazy. And why is this so bright over here? So let's see. If I get this color, I can make it more matte. That looks nice. I'm gonna take a little bit off the edge, though. Yeah, there we go. There we are. I like that. But again, this one is 4.13 million, so it's quite big. I'm gonna save. Maybe I'll change the base thing a little bit darker. So let's export this. Oh, see, render resolution all the way up. Now it's looking crispy. All right, so I'm gonna show you the first one first and this one second. Thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps me out, really helps my channel out. Definitely check out my Skillshare classes. I have 2D classes in Procreate and 3D classes in Nomad Sculpt. Keep drawing, keep sculpting, and I'll see you all in the next video.
This is how I get runs in all my pants and jeans. Thank you. That's how I get rips and everything, right? You like to rip up my clothes, right?